CHBC verse of the day.
We come then to our next verse of the day, and the reading this time is from Matthew 7:24, the end of the Sermon on the Mount, all the way through to Matthew 8 verse 22. And the two verses that I want to concentrate on today are found in verses 11 and 12. They follow on from an encounter with a Gentile centurion whose servant is sick. And he wants Jesus to heal the servant, but he recognizes that Jesus doesn't have to come under his roof. He feels unworthy of that. Jesus, with just a word, can heal his servant. So the verses are 11 and 12. I say to you, says Jesus, that many will come from the east and the west, and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The faith of the Gentile centurion amazes the Lord and prompts him then to go forward in his mind. Today's remote then, but getting nearer every day, and in our day fulfilled, at least to a good extent. Whereas in Jesus' day, such Gentile faith was a rare but a welcome thing, it would be common in days to come, Jesus recognizes. And today there are many from east and from west then who know the Lord and who will soon take up their places at the feast with the patriarchs. Meanwhile, too often the subjects of the kingdom then, the Jews in particular we're thinking of, are in danger of disqualifying themselves and will indeed end up in hell if they do not take care. It's a warning, I think, to all of us then, against an over-familiarity with these things that could so easily breed contempt. So it's Matthew chapter 8, verses 11 and 12.
CHBC verse of the day.
The next verse then comes from a section which you'll find again in Matthew's Gospel, this time in Matthew 8:23 to 9:13. The verse 26 of Matthew chapter 8, Jesus speaks and it says, he replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" And then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. On one level, it is quite understandable for the disciples to be afraid when they're in a terrible storm. They're there on the lake, and although they're fishermen, most of them, they nevertheless are really scared by this storm. Jesus rebukes them for it, however, because it revealed a lack of faith. You see, they thought they were going to drown. That's why they were scared. And yet Jesus was with them in the same boat, and that reveals a failure to think things through. If they'd have thought things through, they'd have realized that Jesus' time hadn't come yet, and they weren't going to die. And so after rebuking the disciples, Jesus rebukes the wind and the waves, and immediately all is calm. And that should not have surprised them then, but it did. And our faith also then, we'll have to confess, is often shallow, and we become afraid. We think we're going to die. We forget that Jesus is in the same boat with us, or perhaps better to put it this way, we are with him. And the less fear we show and the more faith, the better. So Matthew chapter 8, verse 26, Jesus replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. Amen.